Well, thank you for tuning in again. I'm Dr. David Hawkins. This is Sharmen Kimbrough. We're going to talk about healing together. There is a mistake, Sharmen, that is made out there. I have made it. I presume you've made it. And the mistake is believing that the problems that a couple is facing has to do with just communication. And if they will learn good communication tools and good conflict resolution skills, I mean, we were told that's the deal. Everybody can do couples counseling at any time. Get into good couples counseling, and the problem then is, if there's narcissistic abuse and emotional abuse, that real character pathology, character disturbance, that stuff. We've wrestled with narcissistic marriages, narcissists, emotionally abusive men, women who have been victimized. And anyway, we want to now talk about, you've got some programs, and what I think we want to reassure people that trust us and entrust their lives to us. That's not a small deal. They really trust us to be knowledgeable about this. Tell us what are you doing with women, and they know about David Daroff and his corollary program, the Core.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you got going?
So probably one of my my most influential programs is the Redeemed program for women. It is a corollary to the Core, which is for the men. But it's really about going back to that idea that we cannot love well if we aren't well. And so we spend a lot of time just looking at healing, looking at what it really looks like to be your own self, bring your own sense of core self to a marriage relationship in a healthy way. We look at how to use boundaries. I know boundaries sounds like a scary word, but when you think about it, you use boundaries in every relationship that you're in. You just haven't necessarily called it that. There's lots of ways that you don't let people treat you. So we talk about that in the context of marriage, how to have good consequences that actually make it clear what you will tolerate about how other people are treating you. We work through anger and resentment and talk a lot about figuring out who you are and where you're going, because that's the foundation you're operating from. And when you know who you are and where you're going, it's so much easier to have clarity about what your boundaries need to be. You know, anything that pulls you off of the cliff so that you're not on the road to where you want to go, that's where you've got to put a boundary. So we talk about that. We talk about what to do with anger. I believe anger can be a good thing when you use it to motivate you to stay on that path, to fight for what is good and right and true. But obviously we have to talk about, how do you not let it make you get even? How do you not let your anger push you into a place where you become someone you don't want to be? And, we talk about, what does forgiveness really look like? What does it mean to hold yourself in a space where you're letting your spouse also hold himself in his own space, but then learn how to connect and to stay connected? And in a context where you're not thinking for him, you're not doing his work for him, you're doing your own work, learning how to invite him into his own work, and then using that to inform what your next steps are. So it's about a journey of healing individually, regardless of what's happening in the context of your marriage.
So those that are watching, they watch our videos and they're trying to get information. So I guess I would just say to them, if you think you're in an emotionally abusive relationship, and I've got kind of a simple little guideline. That is, if it feels crazy, it probably is crazy. If you feel like your head is spinning and you're in a swamp, what might you say to someone who's wondering, do I need to be in Redeemed? Do I need to be in? Do I want my partner to be in the Core program? What kinds of things would you have them think about?
The biggest thing I would have you think about is the power of the group dynamic. And so if you're thinking about trying to get counseling and you're worried about having to share your story in front of other people, the truth is when you are in a group and all of a sudden you realize y'all are in the same boat. The themes are the same. So, first of all, it puts you in a place where you realize you are not alone. You're not struggling alone. You might still feel alone, but the reality is you're not alone in this. It's an ugly story that everyone is trying to get through. And I tell my ladies in my Redeem groups all the time, I don't for a second believe I'm the smartest person in the room. I just happen to be the facilitator. But the power, again, of the group dynamic is that you all get a chance to speak into each other's lives. And as you're speaking into someone else's life, it's bringing healing to yourself, healing and clarity. And there's so much that happens in that context that does make it more powerful often than just doing individual work. So I invite people, come to the groups, because you build that connection with other people so you don't feel so alone. You start to realize that all of these things that have been hidden and kept secret don't need to be hidden and kept secret, because they're a reality for everyone else in the group. And it's just that freedom to finally set a clean, clear standard, of a baseline of where you are, so that you know what you need to work on and where to go from here. And oftentimes create friendships that could last a lifetime.
Coming out of isolation.
Do
not be isolated. It's tempting to withdraw. You probably have withdrawn, but there is support, there's community available, and there's help available. I want you to come back one more time, and I want to talk about healing together. What does that look like? And after the man has done his work, she's done her work, is that possible? So, all right, we thank you for joining us, and thank you, Sharmen, for joining me. And stay tuned, and we will have another broadcast on healing together. Thank you.